All right, so today we coming to you with a special guest, but he has the most legendary background. He's somewhere in between his house and in between migrant, and he took some time to stop at the dock to speak with us. So Jay, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do and all that little bit.
Okay, my name's Jay Leahy, and I'm kind of the leader of quality windshield repair here in Seattle, Washington. I've got two other guys that work with us in our team, and between the three of us, I think we're at like 105 years experience. And I've got 30 years. I started in March of 1990, and I've got the least experience out of all of us. Both the guys that work with me have been at it longer than I have. One of the guys is even, I think he started back in the 70s, so he's 40 some odd years into it. So between the three of us, we're up here in Seattle just busting it every day and hitting it hard.
How did you get into the industry? Let's start there.
Okay, well, we'll start way back. So
Yeah,
as
let's
a
go way, way
youngster,
back.
yeah. So as a kid, I never was really much into the school and stuff. I was more into socializing and having fun and goofing off. Always high energy. Probably nowadays would be on medication, but back then we just went old school and just went for it. So anyway, just always kind of hustling out there, and kind of sales has always been my background. So as a kid, I was with, like there was a YMCA. We'd have some butter toffee peanuts to sell to earn a trip to go down to Disneyland on a yellow school bus. I'd throw butter toffee peanuts in my backpack and drive down to the ferry lines and sell and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, just kind of always been a salesperson. I got into, I was a snow skiing instructor, racer, a bunch of stuff. And was in the ski industry, sporting good industry. And one of my customers had a glass business, and he came in, and we kind of had a common interest in windsurfing. And he was always like, man, you need to just come to work with me, and you're not going to ever make anything here at the ski store. Just come work with me. We'll make some money, and we'll work when it's not blowing, and when it's blowing, we'll go windsurfing. And then I didn't have any responsibilities back then. I was in my early 20s, so I went for it. And yeah, one thing after another. I just was in parking lots, Fred Meyer's, just selling windshields. I always thought, as a salesperson, how hard can selling windshields be? You find somebody with a broken windshield, and you go and you offer your services. And so I did that, and was just working off of commission only, and never really learned the installation side of it, just because I didn't have time. I was like, man, why do I want to learn about installing? I have no interest in installing. I'm just going to make money off of selling. And so I actually even opened up a telemarketing office. So I had temporary service people where we'd get 4 people in an office. And you got to remember, we're talking way back. I mean, you couldn't do a lot of this stuff that I'm doing now. You can't get on the phone and just call people's houses and telemarket, because this is before caller ID and all this and that. But so I guess, in long story short, is just have always been kind of a salesperson. But one big thing that happened too is when I was doing these sales, I'd take in a big stack of leads, and the guy would go through them, and he'd be like chucking stuff in the garbage. I'm like, what are you throwing in the garbage? And he was throwing away all the rock chips, And I'm like, what, you only want the replacements? You're not doing these rock chips? I said, no, I'm digging the things out of there. I'm gonna learn how to do chips, So I hopped into my dad's Volkswagen Rabbit, and I was running around learning how to do chip repairs. And so I was doing chips to make a little bit of money here, and doing sales. And anyway, long story short, he ended up getting in trouble with the IRS. I got to backstep a little bit here. So when I went to work for him, I didn't go in as an employee. He put me in as a subcontractor. So I had to go out and get my own business license and this and that, which was a blessing in disguise, because when he got in trouble with the IRS for not paying his payroll taxes, he comes to me and says, hey, we're going to start up under a new name in a couple of weeks. I'm like, screw you, dude. I'm out of here, you know? And so I just started doing chip repairs. And then I found other people to sub my glass out to. And when I was subbing, I was buying the glass. I was doing all the billing. I was just paying them a rate to go out and do it. And then, but the thing is with subs is that you don't have any control over them. So I was like, hey, can you please do my windows? And then they'd go out and they'd be installing a windshield. And what happens? You know, you're out installing a windshield. People are coming to you, and he's making these sales and getting all these jobs just by being out there. And I wasn't getting anything from it. So I was like, screw this, you know. And so I had an opportunity to hire a guy, but I had to hire a guy who was really, really good because I didn't know, you know, anything. I couldn't bail him out. And
Right.
You can cuss, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
So you can cuss, it's okay.
Okay.
You're not gonna get in trouble.
All right. I don't know. My mom might watch this, you know. So.
Oh no, God forbid.
Hey Jay, so let's
So anyway, so I had you know, I hired a guy, and that's kind of when I took an interest into learning, you know. It's like, it's okay. It's like, so I'd go out and we'd go to a job where I'd have a job, and he'd go and start installing, and I'd canvass a lot, try to drum up some chip repairs, extra work, this and that, hand out some cards, doing my sales thing. But then once I got done canvassing a lot, I'd go down and I'd get on one side of the car and you know, just if I ran into a problem, he could bail me out, and I just kind of learned how to install that way. And so I kind of have an unorthodox way of getting into the business of installing because I learned from my employees. So
Did you have any mechanical background at all? Because I mean,
okay, this is embarrassing.
no,
This is
it's not. And honestly, I'm gonna be dead serious with you because when I got into auto glass, I had zero mechanical background. Like I didn't even. I feel like I'm pretty mechanically inclined now, but I didn't know I was. I had to discover that I was. So, and you kind of have like a similar coming up through the industry the way I did, sort of. I mean, we kind of didn't have the same exact paths, but the journey was kind of similar.
yeah.
Did you have growing up as a kid? Did you tinker with stuff? Did you build stuff? Nothing like that.
No, hell no, man. I was on my bike, or I was out camping or fishing or doing this and that. My dad didn't change, you know, I've still never changed oil in a car. I don't know how to change oil in a car.
I've never done a brake job ever in my life. So
I haven't done any of that stuff. I don't even know what a distributor does, you know. I don't even know what a spark plug does, man. I don't know squat.
yeah.
Now, hey, you know what though? That you admit it. There's too many guys that claim they can do everything and know everything. And I got a friend who's a mechanic, so if my truck needs working on, I just send my truck to him. Screw that. I'm not a mechanic.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've always kind of tried to find the balance of the things that I should be doing or the things that I shouldn't be doing. I mean, I'll never forget the one time, you know, I live in a nice neighborhood, and you know, I moved in there back in 2000, you know, and so my wife was just pregnant with our second kid, and I wasn't really established or anything. We kind of jumped in over our head and probably spent more money on the house than we should have. And I was living in a neighborhood with all these Microsoft executives and these high wig guys, and here's this little glass guy in here, and I'm up on the roof, man, and I'm scooping out my gutters, and this Microsoft guy walks by. He goes, "What the hell are you doing?" You know, and I'm like, "I'm cleaning my gutters." He goes, "Don't you know you can get on the phone and call somebody to do that?" I'm like, what? You know, and I'd be next to guys that were in their early 20s, and they got a yard service. I'm like, you god dang lazy piece of crap, mow your own grass, you know. And so, but anyway, it's gone different. I haven't mowed my grass in 10 years now, so it's all good.
Yeah, there you go.
Pick up the phone and call someone.
Yeah.
So do you? Let's go into your business a little bit. What kind of? What's your main focus of your business? Are you commercial? Do you deal with insurance jobs? Do you who's your clientele? Like, what do you focus on?
Well, I think most people who have seen me on the page, they know I'm heavy machinery. I definitely have a different niche, and I'm kind of out of touch with a lot of people on the page just because I am very different as to what I do and whatnot. We all kind of have the same, you know, business type thing, but you know, I don't do body shops. I don't do dealerships. I don't do car lots. I'm pretty much, you know, I cater to the people who appreciate me and need my services because I'm working on stuff that they rely on as tools and whatnot. So, and they actually a lot of times have, you know, a hard time finding people. Believe it or not, we're in a big city, but you know, they run their stuff hard all day, and so they sometimes have requests for after hours and whatnot. But so the way it started, won't get too long into this, but I was doing what I do, and I was just down in a industrial area, and this guy was sitting eating his lunch in a Chevy Lumina, and I went up to him. I'm like, dude, your windshield's broken. Let me come and help you. He's like, can you take a PO? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take a PO. And he worked for this heavy machinery company called Heister Sales. And so I went up there, and he goes, yeah, man, the guy who's doing our stuff now, he can't put a windshield in that doesn't leak. And looking back, I was like, I'll do it. And they were 837, so I can understand why they were leaking. But anyway, we went in, we started doing all their service trucks, and he's like, well, do you want to do the windshields in our forklifts? I didn't even know, you know, machinery glass was around then. You know, I was kind of like everyone else, just going after, you know, private parties and doing a lot of insurance work and whatnot. And so jumping ahead again, as I just kind of said, you know, you got a guy who's really good, I'll just do your trucks and vans and your service trucks, and this guy can do your heavy machinery. So I pretty much just turned it down. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And anyway, they got sent out to Boeing to do a lift, and you have to have an escort. So they get there, and you know, this before cell phones, and this, you know, it's way back, and they can't get a hold of the guy, and they're like, well, come back in 20 minutes and we'll try to get him again. And they come back and still can't get a hold of this guy, and they caused a big old scene. I mean, the F words were flying in the receptionist, and they caused a big old, you guys don't have your Boeing, you guys are a pain in the ass. And so anyway, Boeing calls up Heister and says, don't ever send these guys out here again. And then I get a phone call that says, yeah, we need to talk to you. And he pulls me in the office, and he says, I know you've told me before that you don't want to do our machinery, but you need to figure it out because we're going to make you a lot of money. And I was like, okay,
All
well,
right.
that's all I need to hear. So let's go. So, and then at that time, there was a guy that was working with me that came from Denver, and he had cut some glass. And so we just started, and believe me, we made all the mistakes, and you know, we learned the hard way. It's school of hard knocks, but now we've worked ourselves into a pretty good niche. And the thing that's cool up here is, I mean, the thing that's cool is now I do all the work for all the different dealerships, and so people will come in to buy a window, and they'll say, hey, who you know, I got this window now, who can put it in? And they give them my name, and I have instant credibility. I mean, these people call me up and they say, yeah, come and do my window. And they don't even ask what the price is or anything. They just say, come and do it. I go in, and it's just like always. I never go in with my blinders as to that job. I'm going in and I'm doing that job. And I'm also, you know, getting everything else in that, you know, parking lot that I can get. And that's actually how I built my business, is just, you know, from word of mouth. And I've never spent 1 cent on any advertising. No, you know, you can look it back and say, yeah, I spent money to have, you know, the telemarketers and this and that, but I've never taken an ad out. I've never, you know, I don't have a website. I don't do Google. I don't do Yelp. You know, I gave myself a 1-star review on Yelp, hoping that it would scare people away, because I don't, you know, everybody that calls me from Yelp, I don't get a job from Yelp.
I hate Yelp. I can't stand Yelp. Yelp is the
they're
biggest
worst.
waste
I
of
took my
time.
messages off. I just blocked it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
People call me up and they say, hey, you know, we're trying to get you on the front page of Google, you know, and I'm like, I'll be off Google for all I care. I mean,
All right, Jay, so I got a question for you here.
okay.
So you do a lot of heavy machinery, right? So when it comes to getting glass, where do you actually get your glass from? And is it like, do you got to wait to get it, or is it like same day pick up on glass?
Well, a lot of the glass that we do, we just cut, you
Oh,
know.
okay.
So I mean, and it's getting a little different. So I mean, a lot of the newer machines are coming out with curved glass and glass with holes and stuff that they're, trying to be proprietary.
Hmm.
So there's some glass that we have to get from the dealership, and then there's some glass that we just fabricate on site, and then there's some that there are some aftermarket sources that you can buy stuff, and I try to stock up on popular stuff. I have a storage locker that I keep some common John Deere excavators in that I buy, a little bit less expensive than from the dealership,
Right.
have them on hand, and then that way, because a lot of the guys doing machinery, they're relying on the customer to supply the glass, and then they're just going in and getting labor only. And I'm like, man, I want to get some markup in the glass too. So
Oh, of course, yeah. You want to get your dollars.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
So you
maximize.
do so you do a lot of heavy machinery. Do your guys do the heavy machinery too, or they are doing like regular auto?
No, we all do all of it. I mean, so all my guys cut glass, and that's the beauty of it is we got the old guys, so we don't have these younger kids that come in. It's like I have a 1986 Caterpillar loader that all the windows were vandalized, and they didn't just break the windows, they obliterated and knocked them in, so they're gone. So essentially all there is, you're looking at a frame, you've got an opening on the machine, and you've got to you've got to make a pattern, you've got to cut the glass, you've got to put a gasket on it, you've got to sand it and make it fit, and there's a lot of guys who just get overwhelmed with, how do I make a pattern? They don't know how much to subtract for the gasket and how to do a radius and this and that. So I mean, a lot of people
That's math, right?
a lot of people can, try to grab a windshield that's already pre-cut, and then that's ready to go, and then they can go and install it, but they can't seem to fabricate something and do that. It's just, I don't know. I get
We're
some,
glass people. We're
I
we're
don't. I
glass
don't think.
people, one-minded.
Well, locally, I think there's a lot of guys because there's a couple guys in the group that I'm friends with that kind of do what you do here, but a lot of the guys don't want to teach. I know a lot of the younger kids are stubborn and don't want to learn things either, but there's a lot of guys your age, my age, that don't want to show younger guys stuff. So I think that's kind of a small
yeah.
issue too. So I mean, I'm sure there'd be young kids who'd be interested in cutting and learning stuff, but I think a lot of people don't want to show anybody anything. I think everybody's afraid that they're going to teach somebody how to do something. They're going to try to steal their business.
Well, if
Damn
anybody,
right.
if anybody, uh, if anybody has questions or any of that, I'm totally willing. I don't, there's, I essentially, I'm not afraid to teach anybody anything, because the way that I look at it is if I teach somebody how to do my job, and they can go into my customer and then present their service to my customer, and my customer goes to them, they can have them. I don't care. I don't want that customer. I only deal with loyal people. I'm into relationships.
Right.
I don't look at any of my, and this is probably the biggest way that I am in the industry, is that I'm totally relationship oriented. I'm that way with my employees. I'm that way with all my customers. It's like, it's got to be good for both parties, or it's not going to be a long lasting relationship. Just like a marriage, just like anything else. If it's going to be good for one party and not the other, it's not something that's going to last a long time. And so I don't care about having a job. I don't need jobs. I need relationships, and I deal with big companies who bust stuff over and over. And I tell my customers, I'm like, I want to be your Google. If you break something, just first thing you do, get on the phone and you call me and you say, hey, Jay, I busted this. How do I deal with it? And I'm saying, well, here's the best way to deal with it. You know, it's like, I can't help you with that. We're going to have to get that glass from the dealership. And so I essentially, you know, people are busy, you know, they got other stuff to do. And that's another big thing is that, you know, a lot of these people you sit and you wait for your phone to ring.
Right.
People are not going to get on the phone and call, but if you go and you walk in someone's door and you offer your services, people are sometimes receptive. You know, they're like, hey man, I'm here, I do this, you know, let me help you out. You've got a need for my service, so you got this. I'll take a list, you know, I'll go in, I'll go, this is broken, you got a chip here, you got a chip here, what do you want me to fix? They'll look at it and go, fix this, you know, don't fix that. And sometimes you have to be proactive. I mean, even, you know, lately with this virus, that's been big thing, you know, the phones aren't ringing, you know, but I don't stop. I'm going out, and it's hard now too, because I go to these businesses where I've been walking in for 20, 25 years, and now they got a sign on the outdoor that says, if you don't work here, don't even think of coming in here, you know. So I'll pop the door open a little bit, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, hey, Jay, come on in, you know. And so it's been a little weird, but you know, don't sit and, you know, wait for your phones to ring. Just go out there and make it happen, man.
Yeah, closed mouth don't get fed, man. So if you're not out there actively pursuing business, and I always tell people you got to be consistent and persistent if you want to stay around in the business, because you know, in reality, you know, you got if you don't work, you don't eat. So, and you got to sell it to do it, you know.
And it's not a get rich quick thing, you know. So I mean, it's a marathon and not a sprint. So I mean, that's the thing that you know, that's the thing that gets me sometimes on the page. It's like, you know, I look at these posts that some of these guys are doing, and that's where I get frustrated, you know. And it's like, I shouldn't let this get to me, but man, it just gets to me. It's like these guys have been in the industry for 16, you know, like a year and a half, and they're showing pictures of racks full of glass, and you know, it's like, I ain't impressed by that crap, dude. Don't get that crap off of
give a
there.
shout out to someone?
There we go. Let's hear it. You know, back to what you were saying about your customers. Like I tell people, I don't have customers because a customer is a transaction. I have clients because a client is a relationship. And you know, it's the same thing. I got customers I've had for years and years and years. Just shoot me a text, hey, when you can. You know, just not you don't. I understand completely what you're saying. You know, because it's.
You were just saying it the other day too. You were just saying the same thing the other day. I thought of it as soon as Jay said it. I thought of that.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I don't spend money on advertising. I mean, I've done a couple bucks on Instagram and Facebook, but these guys are spending thousands and thousands of dollars on Google ads and Yelp and billboard signs and radio ads. It's like, you know, if your service is good, people will find you. You know, your people will remember you. You don't need to go out there. And I'm not saying like you're doing like going out drumming out work, but I'm saying you don't have to go out there and beg customers and give away the house and you know, be a pest, you know? So
I don't know. I laugh when I hear about these guys that are spending money on Google ads and stuff, and it's like, man, you're spending money to get people to call you who want you to do a job for them, and they only want it to be good for them. You know, they're looking for that one-sided relationship. You know, they're looking for a transaction, and they're looking for it to be a one-time deal, you know. And it's like, you know, it's like, I just, why would you spend money to get people to call you that only want it to be good for them, you know? So
Right.
So hey Chris, so I've seen that you have been doing a lot of the plates, the protection plates, in your stores.
The guards,
You two guys live in the similar kind of area, you know, with the COVID's really hit and government's a little more restrictive. So have you been doing the plates too, the protective plates, Jay? Since that's, you know, kind of in your line with the, you know, the vision bars, whatever the fuck you want to call them.
No, I ain't got time for that crap.
That's too small time for Jay. What are you talking about?
All right, so Jay, here's one I got.
The city of Seattle, the transfer station, I sold them some material that they used at the at the dump, so that when the people come in to dump their garbage, the little cubby that they go to, they were protected. But the only reason I sold them that was because I was there doing, you know, some trucks and equipment. They're like, hey, we're looking for this for I'm like, I can get that for you. So it was kind of I kind of just dropped it off at the same time I was doing another transaction. But no, yeah, I've been busy. Sorry, but
So
I
what's
don't
the
like to
what's the
say it,
most
but yeah.
extreme job, most odd piece of equipment you've had to put a window in then? Since you're doing
Okay,
all this heavy
so
machinery, what's the most crazy thing?
Yeah, give us a
I've done a
legendary
couple
story.
of them. I mean, I've done a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, uh, I suppose some of the funner stories that I have is, so in Seattle, I have a crane company that I deal with that they build cabs, and I go in, I put all the glass in them. So this crane got shipped up to Alaska, and it was on a barge in the middle of Bristol Bay, and they couldn't find anybody in Alaska that was confident to go out and go do it. So they flew me up there. Um, we'll go back. So I crated up some glass. I crated up my straight edge, and we flew it up there. And I said, yeah, when it gets up there, open it up, make sure it's not broken, and then when we verify that it's good, we'll do a plane ticket. So I get on a plane, fly up to Anchorage, sleep overnight. I get on a 30-seater, fly out to White Salmon or King Salmon, Alaska, and they pick me up in truck, and they're like, yeah, we got to go to the airport and get that glass. I'm like, you haven't gotten the glass yet? And I'm like, they're like, no, it's here, but we haven't gotten it. I'm like, you guys didn't
Oh,
check, make sure
jeez.
it's not broken, you know? So we get there, we open it up, it's got a big old crack running on the side, and the guy turns white as a ghost, you know? But I sent an extra sheet, and I'm like, it's okay, you know, because the window was kind of angled and cut this way. So I'm like, I'll just cut that off, it's fine. But it could have been bad. But we then took that glass, had my tools. We hopped in a little skiff, which is a little boat, and went out to this barge and jumped onto the barge, cut glass for the crane, and yeah, I was up there for 36 hours, and it was pretty funny because that whole bay, the tide's like 26 feet, and it completely drains out, and the thing sits on dirt for time of the day. So you have essentially you're on kind of a time clock, because if you don't get the job done in time, all the water will, and then you're stuck out there, you know. And so they're coming to me going like, what do you want for lunch? And I'm like, I ain't eating lunch. I got to get this thing done, you know. And so we got it done. And it's funny, you get back to the airport. I get there like an hour and a half early to the airport to catch my flight back, and they're like, what are you here so early for? I'm like, we always get to the airport early. They're like, you only need to be here like 10 minutes before your flight takes off. Go next door and get a beer, you know. So I go next door to get a beer, and they're like, you want a pitcher? I'm like, dude, I can't drink that much beer. They just bring me a glass of beer, and they bring it in this big old freaking canning jar, like a quart. I still can't drink that much beer.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
Then
wild.
the other one that was kind of funny was whirlybird crane at a shipyard. This guy broke the glass in this crane because the crane kind of sits down, it looks down, and it had worked its way loose, and it would vibrate when he was working it. So to keep it from vibrating, he'd put his foot on it and kind of put a little pressure on it so it's not vibrating. And then he snapped it, you know. So they called me in. They're like, yeah, we got this crane for you to do. I'm like, okay, cool. How are you going to get me up there? Because you had to go up to the front of the crane. And they're like, oh, we got the scissor lift, you know. So they get me on the scissor lift, and they lift me up, and they got the thing fully extended, and it was like a 5-foot tall window, and my chest was literally right here at the bottom of the window. I'm like, how am I going to do that? They're like, well, you comfortable with a ladder? I'm like, no, I'm not even comfortable like this. I felt like I could go like this and tip the thing over, you know. So they're like, okay, plan B. And they're like, they get on the radio, and they're like, can you bring the milk crate over? And I'm like, the milk crate, what's that? And they bring over this wood box essentially, and it's got 4 chains going up, and there's 2 cranes, and they grab onto the thing, and we get in there, and they lift us up with one crane to the front of the other crane. And then there's another guy in the milk crate with me, and his job essentially was to hold me still so the thing's not swaying like this, you know.
Oh shit.
and and I get all the screws off on the plate that's holding the window in, and I pull the window out, and the chains are coming up from the side, and I'm like, I can't even get this thing in the crate, you know. And I'm looking down, and there's like workers. I can't chuck this thing, so I took one of the corners and just pulled it in. And so anyway, I get done with this job, and I go in and I give this guy this bill, and I'm like almost feeling guilty, you know. And this was before I knew what I could actually get. I could have gotten way more money than I did. And this guy looks at me, he says to me, he goes, that's why we call you, Jay, man. You're the only one you get this job done for us. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, there's nobody else in this city that would be stupid enough to do what I did, man. So, yeah.
That does not sound like an OSHA approved story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a few things that are not OSHA approved, but I'm safe. I want to go home to my family. I don't ever want to get injured doing this job, you know. It's like, you know, I use my business as a tool to feed my family and you know, make a life and do stuff, but I don't want to get hurt, and I look forward to retiring someday too. So
Retiring, what's that?
Quick question for you, Jay. You're talking about family, and I've been listening to all the things you've been saying, but in between, you mentioned running, golfing, windsurfing. So explain you and your family and like how athletic you guys are. What all athletic activities you guys get into?
Well, I met my wife windsurfing. When we were younger, I mean, that's what we did. We golfed, windsurfing, mountain biking, just always been on the go. That's why we kind of like it up here in Washington. There's always stuff to do. Growing up, started my kids snow skiing at 2 years old. Really fun to, I'd got my 2-year-old were skiing, and then when he's 4, he's bombing around, and then all of a sudden my wife says, okay, here's the younger one, now you got to teach him. I'm like, oh man, I got to start over again. So take the 2-year-old, get him skiing, but nothing more rewarding than, you know, did a couple of ski trips when the kids were young, and we'd ski from the minute they opened the lifts till the day it ended. And it's just, you know, you're skiing along and you're just looking over, and it's like, this is awesome, you know. And so now we've always had, you know, my oldest son is 21.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the top swimmers in the nation, full ride Division I scholared swimmer at California Baptist University down in Riverside, California.
Okay.
Was actually supposed to be going to the Olympic trials this year before it got shut down. My younger son is 19. He's an engineering student at the University of Washington.
Okay.
And he's just about a scratch golfer. Works at a country club up here. So we still like to get out. Just like last night, I get home from work and I grabbed my swimmer son, and we went up to the mountains and got a hike in about 4 miles, a couple thousand feet of elevation gain, and my younger son was studying for a midterm today, and so yeah, we like to get out and about. My wife, she rides her Peloton like a mad woman. She's in great shape. And
Jamie rides that too.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I got a question. So, you saw the post or our video with Mark and Lori Lacey, and they skydiving. They had their kiss at 10,000 feet. Have you guys, you know, what's the highest you've been up? You got a kiss in the air like that?
So, well, yeah. I mean, when I was dating my wife, one of the things she did, she bought me. Well, she's actually bought both of my crazy adventures. But these are before kids, so I have a 21-year-old. That'll tell you how far it goes back. But up in Canada, they have this bridge that's over a river, and we bungee jumped off of that. Ooh. And then she also bought me skydiving, where jumped from about 12,000 feet tandem on a tandem skydive, which was pretty funny because we were walking out to the plane and these other guys come running along and they're like, "Hey, can we just get a lift with you?" And they're like, "Okay." They're like, "How high are you going up to?" And they were like, "We're going to 12,000." They're like, "Okay, how about if we jump at 10?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And so anyway, we get up there and I got this altimeter on my thing and I'm like, "Man, we're getting pretty high, man. How high are we?" I look in and we're like 700 feet and I'm like, "Holy cow, we got a long way to go." 700 feet. we get up to 10,000 feet, you know, and I was pretty cool, you know. My heart was beating, but I was like, "All right, I'm okay here. I'm okay. This is gonna be cool." And we get to 10,000 feet. They open up the door for these other guys to jump, and then the guy who was jumping with me, he goes, "Yeah, you got to watch this. It's cruel, you know." And so I get there and I'm watching this guy jump, and whew, he was gone, man. I was like, "Where'd he go?" And then from there, man, I was toast, man. I was just like, I got out there and I was not happy, but I survived, obviously.
Yeah, that's what's up. But we'll be mindful of your time, Jay. One last question before we let you go. Give us your take on what you think the Seahawks going to do this year.
Hoping they play, you know. But you know, I always have high hopes. I have, you know, we got the best quarterback in the league. I don't care what anyone says. So I just hope that you know, they give Russ so darn much money. You know, I hope they just don't cut it short in other places. But I have a lot of faith in Pete and John. You know, so we got good guys in the office, and yeah, I'm looking forward to taking some more. Getting another jersey this year, and you know, getting some people to change their you know, their Facebook page or whatever to the Seahawks.
I'm tired of buying jerseys of Seahawk fans.
I know. I didn't take yours this year. I only did profile picture.
Yeah, I know. I got Clint Como. I
even got you when the Cardinals won. I knew the Cardinals were going to win that game.
I know. I even bet against my own damn team. And yeah.
Oh, you bet against your own team.
Right
oh
there.
man,
that's a regretful face.
So Jay, shout out some people who you beat in bets. So who were some people you made change their profile pictures?
Well, mainly Matt Corcoran. So I get him to, and the funny thing is that, you know, once that profile picture gets changed, it's screenshotted. I got it forever. So he starts talking some smack. I throw that thing up there, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, what's this?"
I know, it's funny. Whenever I lose one of those bets, it's instantly, oh, someone lost the bet.
Yeah.
Instantly.
You're a good sport. You're a good sport.
It's fun. It's fun. You got to keep. I hope we have a season. The Cardinals took my season ticket money, so I hope we get to go see them. So.
Yeah, hopefully there's some football going on. If it is, hopefully we all can hook up at some point. That's going to be the thing that we're trying to do. If the football season does happen at some point, get a lot of people from the auto glass industry to get together and maybe tailgate, watch a game, have some fun. I think that should be legendary. So if we can make it happen, we're going to try our part to make it happen.
You guys got to come up to Washington, man. It's God's country up here, man.
Well, my family, we were supposed to go up there, but now, you know, all this.
Since you're the epicenter of this whole thing.
What are you talking about?
There's nobody outside. See, your whole town's on quarantine still. There ain't nobody outside.
Yeah. So before we let you go, Jay, give us stand up and rotate the camera so everybody can see the lake. Let us get that legendary view.
Jeffrey, I'll show you where Bill Gates' house is. Bill Gates is like right over there, man.
Nice. Everybody knows I love him.
Well, somewhere over on that case. I don't even know what this thing is. But
that's where Bill Gates hides his bodies that he kills.
Whatever.
Yeah. That's a nice view of the lake. And what lake are you on again?
Lake Washington.
Okay, Lake Washington, somewhere in between your house and Migrant, right? Is that what, Migrant Tacoma?
No, Migrant Seattle, man.
Migrant Seattle. Okay, Migrant Seattle. Okay.
Yeah, I got my guys are heading to Migrant Tacoma right now, but
Okay.
So how far is Tacoma and Seattle separated from each other? How far is that?
20 miles.
Okay.
Okay. Ain't nothing.
It's kind of we have three warehouses, all they're all like 20 20 20. So we got Tacoma, we got Seattle, and then we got Everett. So
Okay. Well, shout out to anybody from Migrant on the group if they had any of those branches. But yeah, appreciate you, Jay. Appreciate your time. Anybody got anything they want to share before we get out of here?
No, Chris, you haven't said much today, buddy.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm listening to Jay.
Once I get going, I can't stop. So
Put a quarter in Jay and let him talk, right?
Yeah.
You know,
well, no
one thing
worries.
you're saying, though, is with the back when you're saying you started out doing the sales and all the cold calls and everything. That's kind of when I first started doing glass, and I went with a smaller company. That was one of the things I was doing too. You know, running around, see a broken windshield in the parking lot. Oh, there's a card. Oh, talk to him. You know, just
that's the beauty of our industry. I mean, it's like you find people who need your service, and if they have a broken windshield, they have a need. I mean, and
Yep.
I don't have a problem going up and talking to them, and
No, I think that's what's helped me a lot.
If they shoot you down and say no, it's like, well, I offered my services. That's it, you know, and that's
Learn
part
to
of
take
sales.
no for an answer.
Yeah.
You know, you talk to enough people, they're going to say yes. So, yeah. So, I mean, all in all, if I were to say, you know, my advice to people is, you know, get up and make it happen, and, you know, communicate with people. You know, that's one other thing in this industry is that, you know, it's people don't communicate with their customers, and you know, people like to know what's going on. So I mean, even if it's you have to call and tell them something they don't want to hear, you know, like I'm not going to make it. You still got to communicate with them. So I mean,
and add one to Corey there.
Don't cut yourself short, you know. So don't be afraid to ask for something that's, you know, fair for you, not just fair for the customer.
Right.
And the other thing too, Jeffrey, more rock chips. Do more rock chips.
I do rock chips. What are you talking about? I do rock chips all the time.
Every time you're at a job, you're not there just doing that windshield. You got to be looking for chips too, man. Because I'll tell you what, I mean,
$100 chip repairs.
Shut up.
Sound like Carl now with his $120 rock chip repairs.
Don't start with that crap. That's not good.
No, it's like Corey said though. Communication.
If I can get 70
and persistence.
Yeah.
No, but you know, here's the thing with chips, and I'm sure Corey will have an appreciation for this. Chips are your best friend, and chips are your worst friend. Okay, so if you're a chip repair guy, it's difficult to really make a good living, you know, driving around doing a chip repair here and a chip repair there. So say, you know, I got to drive 30 minutes to do a $60 or $70 chip repair, and then, you know, you can burn a couple hours in your day just going to do a chip repair.
Right.
But if you're at a job and it's sitting right next to you, you can have that chip repair done in 5 minutes and have a nice amount of money in your pocket, you know. And then if you multiply that by 2 or 3 chips, I mean, it goes big, you know. And
People are always watching.
Yeah. And you know, of course, when I say that, that's the business owner in me, you know. The installer's not going to, you know, that's not going to resonate with the installer. They don't want to be doing anything. They have to chip here.
Right.
I just want to get my day done and go home.
Right. Well, cool, Jay. Well, we appreciate you for all the gems you've dropped and the knowledge, and communication, persistence, a closed mouth don't get fed. get out there, do it, and all this coming from a guy who never did a Google ad. So we appreciate you. I'm sure it's gonna be very helpful for the community and for the group. So appreciate you and appreciate everybody else, and everybody. I hope y'all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right, yeah, take care.